Throughout history, men have built kingdoms, led armies, and shaped societies. Yet many of these same men have been undone by something far less visible than an enemy on the battlefield: the slow erosion of attraction. Inside their own relationships, the tragedy is not that these men lacked devotion. In fact, their downfall came precisely because they gave too much of it. Modern culture tells men that love means endless reassurance, constant attention, and unconditional giving. The more flowers, dinners, compliments, and good morning texts, the stronger the bond will become. At least that is the promise. But the reality observed in countless relationships points in the opposite direction. The very behaviors men are taught to believe will secure loyalty often accelerate disinterest. Psychologists describe this as one of the great paradoxes of human attraction. Women do not lose interest because they receive too little affection, but because they receive too much of it too easily. When approval is predictable and unconditional, it loses value. When a man makes himself entirely available, he inadvertently communicates that he has no alternatives, no higher mission, no independence of his own. Attraction thrives on a different logic. To understand this, one must leave behind the idea of romance as a purely emotional or moral phenomenon. Attraction is not only cultural, it is biological. For hundreds of thousands of years, female survival depended on choosing men who could provide protection, strength, and resources superior to their rivals. The woman who entrusted herself to a weak or needy partner risked not only her safety, but the future of her children. Evolution rewarded selectivity, not sentiment. This ancient calculus still influences behavior today. Even in a world of supermarkets and digital security, a woman's subconscious is scanning for signs of strength and scarcity. When a man overwhelms her with constant validation, her brain interprets it not as proof of love, but as proof of dependence. Dependence has always been a liability in the harsh mathematics of survival. Here lies the uncomfortable truth. Genuine desire only thrives when a woman feels she is reaching upward. Not downward, not sideways, upward. Toward a man whose life, energy, or presence seems slightly out of reach. A man she must continue to win over, even when she already has his commitment. Without that sense of upward reach, the dynamic flattens. She feels secure, yes, but with security comes predictability, and with predictability comes boredom. It is a pattern repeated in relationship after relationship. The man who begins as confident, independent, and magnetic gradually reshapes himself into the perfect partner he believes she wants. Slowly, he gives up his independence, his edge, his unpredictability. Each act feels like love. Together, they form a chain of self-sabotage. And when the spark disappears, he is left confused, wondering why devotion was not enough. The answer is not that women are cruel or ungrateful. The answer is that attraction operates on tension, challenge, and respect. When those elements vanish, so does desire. In modern life, survival no longer depends on choosing the strongest hunter or the most dominant warrior. Yet the psychological mechanisms that shaped female attraction for millennia are still active, quietly influencing every interaction between men and women. This force has a name in evolutionary psychology: hypergamy. Hypergamy is the subconscious tendency to seek out partners of higher value. It is not a conscious calculation. A woman does not wake up thinking, "I must trade upward today." Instead, her attraction is guided by instincts designed to maximize the survival chances of her future children. Those instincts are sensitive to subtle cues about a man's confidence, independence, and ability to thrive without her. Here is where many men misunderstand the nature of value. They imagine it as a checklist: money, status, height, physique. And while these factors can influence perception, they are not decisive. What matters most is not the objective reality of a man's life, but the way his behavior signals his perceived value. Consider two men. The first is wealthy, successful, and respected by his peers. Yet in private, he floods his partner with attention, bends to every demand, and shows visible fear of losing her. The second has modest means, an ordinary job, and little social prestige. Yet he moves with ease, chooses confidently, and never begs for validation. Which one does she obsess over? Time and again, the second man generates stronger attraction. Not because his circumstances are superior, but because his behavior communicates abundance. He signals that his life is already full, that his attention is scarce, that he is not dependent on her recognition to define his worth. To her subconscious, this is a far stronger indicator of value than any car, job, or degree. This is the brutal paradox. Men often invest more, thinking it will make them indispensable. In reality, every act of excessive investment signals the opposite, that they have nothing else to offer but devotion. Devotion, when unconditional, is interpreted as weakness. And weakness, in the language of hypergamy, is a warning sign. Women are finely attuned to these signals. They test, often unconsciously, for proof of strength. How does he react when she pulls away? Does he panic or remain steady? How does he respond when another man is mentioned? Does he bristle with insecurity or stay calm? These moments are not about the details, they are about the cues they reveal. Each response adds to her judgment of his value relative to hers. The currency of attraction, then, is not material wealth or physical power alone. It is psychological posture. The ability to maintain direction, confidence, and independence under pressure. The man who demonstrates this posture consistently positions himself above her in perceived value. And it is precisely this upward perception that sustains desire. Hypergamy does not mean women are opportunists. It means they are wired to seek security and strength. Just as no man can ignore his instinctive pull toward beauty, no woman can ignore her instinctive pull toward strength. To deny this is to deny biology. And yet, understanding it can transform how men approach relationships. Because once you grasp that attraction is not about showering her with certainty, but about maintaining an aura of independence, the rules change. She does not lose interest because you fail to give enough. She loses interest because you give too much, too freely, without asking her to invest. The second principle of attraction, then, is this. Certainty kills desire, uncertainty fuels it. When she is certain of your feelings, she stops working for them. When she is uncertain, when there is a space she cannot fully close, her mind begins to race. That mental occupation keeps you alive in her thoughts, and thought is the soil in which desire grows. Uncertainty is one of the most powerful psychological forces in human behavior. Economists, gamblers, and neuroscientists all know this truth. Predictable rewards lose their value, but unpredictable rewards create obsession. The same principle applies to attraction. When a woman feels she has completely mapped out a man's behavior, when every message, reaction, and plan is predictable, her subconscious relaxes. There's no mystery left to solve, no challenge left to pursue, and in that calm, attraction fades. This is why relationships so often begin with passion and end with boredom. In the early stages, everything feels uncertain. Will he call? What does that look mean? Where will this go? Her mind races with possibilities, and those possibilities feed desire. But once routine sets in, daily check-ins at the same time, predictable date spots, identical responses to her moods, the tension dissolves. What was once an adventure becomes a script. Predictability may feel safe, but safety is the enemy of passion. A man who always answers within seconds, who never disagrees, who organizes his life around her rhythms, may think he is proving reliability. In reality, he is announcing that he has been fully captured. And nothing erodes desire faster than the feeling that there is no more pursuit, no more mystery, no more upward climb. This is the paradox of the so-called bad boy. It is not cruelty that draws women toward him, it is unpredictability. He does not play by the same rules as everyone else. He is not fully available, not always reliable, not constantly seeking approval. His unpredictability creates tension, and tension is the oxygen of attraction. But this does not mean a man must be reckless or manipulative. It means he must resist becoming entirely predictable. A relationship thrives when a woman cannot fully anticipate him, when his responses, while steady in principle, are not mechanical. Sometimes he is affectionate, sometimes distant. Sometimes he rearranges his schedule, sometimes he does not. This variability forces her to keep investing attention, to keep recalibrating her expectations, to stay engaged. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It is the same dynamic that makes slot machines addictive. A gambler never knows when the next reward will come, and that uncertainty keeps him hooked. In relationships, a woman who cannot perfectly predict a man's affection invests more mental energy into maintaining it. Each sign of approval feels more valuable because it is not guaranteed. Here lies another fatal mistake many men make. They front-load all their affection. In the first weeks, they flutter with compliments, gifts, and declarations. They believe they are securing loyalty by overwhelming her with certainty. In truth, they are spending their entire emotional budget too early. Once she has adapted to that level of investment, anything less feels like withdrawal, and the spark dies. A wiser approach is to pace validation. Offer recognition, but make it conditional, not on her mere presence, but on her behavior. Praise when it is earned, when she contributes, when she shows loyalty or kindness. In this way, affection retains meaning. She learns that approval is not free, and therefore it remains precious. This scarcity principle applies to attention as well. The man who is always available communicates that his time is cheap. The man who is selective about his attention communicates that it is valuable. Scarcity creates worth, and worth sustains attraction. None of this means withholding affection to manipulate. It means remembering that desire does not grow in certainty, grows in tension, in unpredictability, in the constant need to invest. The third principle of attraction is this: predictability kills, novelty sustains. A relationship without challenge, without uncertainty, without variation, will inevitably drift into routine. And routine, however comfortable, is the death of desire. One of the most confusing experiences for men in relationships is the phenomenon of testing. A woman who seems deeply interested suddenly pulls back, acts cold, or introduces subtle provocations. She may mention another man, cancel plans at the last moment, or display indifference towards something he clearly values. Many men interpret these behaviors as cruelty, manipulation, or signs of disloyalty, but in most cases they are none of these. They are unconscious tests of value. These tests are not calculated strategies. A woman does not sit down and decide to invent obstacles. The behavior emerges naturally, guided by instincts that have existed for millennia. Her subconscious is searching for proof. Is this man as strong as he appeared at the beginning? Can he remain centered when challenged? Does he fold under pressure, or does he hold his ground? Every test is an attempt to measure resilience, and every response communicates something crucial about his frame. Take the comparison test. She comments casually on another man's attractiveness. The man who reacts with jealousy, anger, or defensiveness reveals insecurity. His frame collapses at the mere mention of competition. But the man who remains calm, even amused, signals confidence. He shows that he does not need to compete because he does not see her attention as scarce. Or consider the availability test. She cancels plans suddenly. The man who scrambles to reschedule, expressing disappointment or neediness, signals dependence. The man who shrugs, moves on with his evening, and keeps his schedule intact, signals independence. He shows that his life continues with or without her. Then there's the attitude test. She grows distant, irritable, or cold. The man who chases after her, desperate to restore harmony, hands over control. But the man who mirrors her energy calm, steady, unbothered forces her to recalibrate. By not collapsing, he demonstrates that his emotional balance is not in her hands. Passing these tests does not require confrontation or aggression. It requires steadiness, the ability to hold one's ground without being rattled. Women are not searching for perfection. They are searching for proof of strength, proof that a man's confidence is not fragile, that his independence is not a mask. This explains why so many men lose attraction precisely when they try hardest to please. By rushing to reassure, they reveal fear. By constantly proving devotion, they admit dependence. And dependence undermines the very respect that sustains desire. Biologically, this makes sense. In ancestral environments, a man who could not withstand emotional pressure was unlikely to withstand physical threats. If he panicked at a partner's coldness, how could he protect against predators or rival tribes? Testing ensured survival by filtering out weakness. Even today, a woman does not consciously choose to test. But when she feels attraction, her instincts compel her to probe. It is not disrespect, it is due diligence. Her biology demands certainty before deeper investment. The irony is that the men who resent these tests the most are often the ones who fail them. They mistake evaluation for attack, and their defensiveness exposes fragility. The men who pass understand the purpose. They accept testing as part of the natural order. Instead of resenting it, they welcome it as an opportunity to demonstrate steadiness. The fourth principle of attraction is this: tests are proof of interest, not rejection. When a woman stops testing entirely, it often means she has lost curiosity. The presence of tests signals engagement. The way a man responds determines whether that engagement deepens into respect or withers into contempt. If there's one concept that ties all these dynamics together, it is frame. Frame is not a trick or a tactic. It is the underlying reality a man projects about himself, the world, and his place within it. Whoever controls the frame in a relationship sets the rules, defines the standards, and shapes the direction. When a man holds his frame, he does not need to argue or dominate. His steadiness speaks louder than words. His partner may challenge him, but she quickly learns that his boundaries are not negotiable. He listens with empathy, but he does not abandon his principles to soothe her emotions. This quiet strength is magnetic. It allows her to relax, to trust, and ultimately to respect. But when a man surrenders his frame, everything changes. Each compromise feels small at first, canceling a night with friends, rearranging a schedule, apologizing for things that are not wrong. Over time, these surrenders accumulate. The relationship shifts. She becomes the authority, and he becomes the petitioner. Attraction, which once thrived on his independence, begins to decay. Frame control is not about being inflexible. It is about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and refusing to betray that for approval. The man who masters frame does not need to prove himself constantly. His value is self-evident in the way he carries his life. This is where the abundance mindset enters. Abundance does not mean juggling multiple women or living recklessly. It means living in a way that no single person defines your worth. Your life has meaning outside of romance. You have goals, missions, friendships, and passions that make you whole. When you operate from abundance, you are free. Free from desperation. Free from fear of loss. Free from the need to compromise your integrity. Women sense abundance instinctively. A man who can walk away if necessary is infinitely more attractive than a man who clings at all costs. As philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once observed, the one who needs less controls more. In relationships, the person most willing to walk away holds the power. Women understand this intuitively. Men must learn it deliberately. The fifth principle of attraction is this: love without respect collapses. Care, affection, and devotion matter. But without respect, they cannot sustain desire. Respect is earned not by constant giving, but by consistent strength. By the willingness to disappoint when necessary. By the courage to say no. By the discipline to maintain frame. In the end, women do not lose interest because men are too kind. They lose interest because kindness, when unguarded by strength, signals weakness, and weakness cannot command respect. The men who succeed in love are not the ones who give everything away. They are the ones who give generously, but never at the expense of their own integrity. They are reliable, but not predictable, caring, but not desperate, affectionate, but not dependent. They embody the paradox women cannot resist: safety paired with challenge, devotion paired with independence, love paired with strength. This is the essence of attraction. It's not manipulation, not cruelty, but alignment with timeless psychology. A woman must feel she is reaching upward, striving to earn, investing to keep. When she feels this tension, desire flourishes. When it disappears, so does love. So the choice lies with every man. Continue believing the myth that devotion alone secures loyalty, or embrace the truth that respect and attraction are born from strength. One path leads to confusion, disappointment, and loss. The other leads to relationships that remain vibrant, passionate, and enduring. If you found these insights valuable, consider subscribing. There is much more to uncover about the psychology of relationships, and understanding it could change not only how you love, but how you live.